I was scheduled for a C-section 1 week before my initial delivery date. I checked in at the hospital 2 days before the surgery, as the doctors wanted to do some additional blood works. This was a public hospital, and Paps was only allowed inside during visiting hours. My first night at the hospital, I tried to stay as calm as possible, listening to uplifting gospel music. I encouraged the other pregnant patients to pray, not to be anxious, and remain positive, and in the midst of that, I felt a sense of peace. On the second night, as I was preparing for bed, I could feel extra moisture beneath my legs. I quickly checked. It was blood. I looked at the ground and blood was dripping from beneath me. I called out to a nurse who quickly took me to a private room and helped me on an emergency bed. I then felt what seems to feel like clots coming out of me. My eyes was filled with tears. Several doctors came to assess what was happening. They quickly checked for the heartbeat, which was perfectly beating, and that was music to my ears, and it gave me the hope I needed. I began to silently pray for my faith to be strengthened. The doctors did their checks and was talking amongst themselves, that the fleshy material flowing out of me was placenta. When I heard that, I began talking to my sweet unborn child. I told him that we are strong and we can do this. I knew I needed a miracle. This was a placental abruption. I needed an emergency surgery. I sent Paps a quick message that I was going into surgery. One of the nurses strapped a heartbeat monitor on my tummy and told me to focus on the baby's heartbeat. She encouraged me not to worry. They covered me with a white sheet on a bed, pushing me down the hallways, heading towards an ambulance that would transport me to the main emergency room. This was horrific. Almost like a horror movie. I had to shun all the negative thoughts that flowed through my mind. My pressure was borderline and everything around me seems to be moving fast. Important questions were being asked by one doctor while another prepped me for the surgery. Soon, I found myself looking at the surgeons around me. The surgery was over without me even blinking twice. I quickly asked if my baby boy survived. The lady surgeon answered, "Oh yes, you have a beautiful baby boy with a cute birthmark, let me bring him over." I looked at my baby boy for the first time and he was beautiful as though he has been touched by an angel. I am a mother. My baby boy is here. I got my miracle. Born a few minutes before midnight. I immediately began thanking God, and the surgeon whispered, "Yes, you really need to thank him." The doctors explained that, normally in my situation, the afterbirth would not be intact, which means the baby would have minutes to survive when taken from the womb, but somehow, my afterbirth was still intact, and that to them was puzzling. The next day, Paps came to visit. He assisted with our son. I watched him keenly and he seemed happy and sad at the same time. I knew my Paps, and I knew something was off with him. I tried to ignore him and remain happy for my beautiful baby boy. A few days later I was discharged, and as I walked out of the hospital with my tiny human being, reality hit me. I have a baby. We got home around 7 in the evening and I wobbled out of the car, while Paps carried the baby and the bags inside. Paps then mentioned that he was gonna head back to work. That was questionable to me, as I would be left home alone with a newborn baby and a fresh C-section. Still, he left and went back to work. The baby started crying, and I had the least of clue on how to calm him down. I tried everything I could. I began to cry too. I didn't have anyone to call for help. I felt so hopeless. A few days passed and I could feel a rage of anger brewing inside me. Paps and I got into an heated argument in which he mentioned that he didn't want any more kids, and that our son was just Brada. He also mentioned that very soon, I won't have him to deal with. This crushed my spirit. It's as if he put a knife through me. This was something we agreed on. Why would he be talking like that? At that point I knew that this life, this home we built, which was once my safe place, now becomes a dark reality. Paps took a month off from work to stay home with baby and I. This turned out to be senseless, as every day for the entire month, Paps would still leave the house for work. I became stressed. Having to do this alone. At 2 months postpartum, I started giving baby both formula and breast milk, as I wasn't producing enough breast milk for baby's growth. At 6 months postpartum, I stopped giving baby breast as I stopped producing milk completely. I started smoking again. The stress was too much. From daybreak to midnight Paps would be at work. His eldest son and I got into daily altercations. He listens to no one and we could hardly coexist. But I know he needed his father, we both do. Paps would say that I was miserable and always complaining, whenever I messaged him regarding what's happening at the house. I stopped complaining, and tried to be the most peaceful wife, holding down everything in the home. I didn't want to be a part of the reason he was staying away from home. Still, he started coming home later and even started working on the weekends. Paps said he was stressed with work. I prayed for him every day, more than I prayed for myself, asking God to give him wisdom and favor, to protect him from anything that's meant to hurt him in any way. Deep in my heart I knew something was wrong. Paps only sleeps at home, nothing else. One day, I asked him nicely if he was being unfaithful. Paps almost got angry, but then assured me that no such thing was happening. Our baby boy turned 1 and I was home alone celebrating with him. Then it was our wedding anniversary and Paps' birthday. I begged Paps to come home early so we could celebrate, but instead, he came home at 2 in the morning. I felt so sad, so lonely, and so angry. No kisses, no gifts, no I love yous, no time spending with each other. I felt as though I was parked by my husband. We celebrated Christmas and New Year's Eve in another country with family. On the first day of the new year, Paps was in the living room sleeping, drunk from all the festivities. I noticed his phone was on and a red heart was on the screen. I went and took up the phone and immediately got the shock of my life. My Paps was in a relationship with another woman for more than half of our marriage. 5 years. The many messages of I love yous and I can't survive without you. I went into immediate shock.